Hello, interwebs. How are you doing? I am doing well. I've had like a crazy couple days. I don't normally vlog on Fridays, but I had a nuts couple days. If you follow me on Twitter, you know Leeroy was like really sick, and I don't mean like, oh, my cat was throwing up or my cat was hiding under the bed. Like he lost functionality of his front legs. It was horrifying. It was like the scariest experience of my entire life. I didn't know he had neurological symptoms until it was very evident that he could not, like, leg. Oh, and look, now he's, like, fine. Look at him. He's fine. He's not really fine. He's, like, heavily medicated. But, so, like, 3 weeks ago, we brought Leeroy to the vet because he was being really lethargic and weak and just not himself. He wasn't eating. And the vet... he was kind of fine once he got to the vet. I don't know if it was adrenaline or what, but he was, like, kind of fine when he got to the vet. So they gave us, like, some very, like, I don't know, like, smelly food that he would be more interested in eating. And they said they thought maybe he had, like, a hairball or gas or something, and that maybe it was, like, in the process of passing, and that's why he was acting okay. And he was all right for about 2 weeks, 2-ish weeks. Sunday night, he started showing symptoms again. Lethargy, weakness, hiding under the bed, refusing to eat, growling at everybody, which is very unlike him. So we brought him back to the vet on Monday, and they did a full blood panel, a full urinalysis, and they sent us home with some anti-nausea and pain medicine, and his blood panel came back clean. His urinalysis came back normal. And he still wasn't eating. He was still very lethargic. And it was to the point of where he wouldn't even, like, walk. He was, like, doing this really, like, low crawl. But it didn't look... it just looked like he was, like, scared or uncomfortable. It didn't look like he wasn't, like, functioning. I did notice that when I would, like, bring him over to his food bowl, I'd, like, pull him out from under the bed or wherever he was hiding, and I'd put him in front of his food bowl, and he would just kind of flop. But it was very reminiscent of, like, I don't know if you've ever seen somebody who put, like, a harness or a sweater on their cat and their cat just, like, doesn't cat anymore. That was what it was like. So I really thought he was just, like, refusing because I had taken him out of his hiding spot and he was mad at me. I didn't think that he couldn't sit up. And I brought him back to the vet on Thursday morning because he was worse. He wasn't better. And it was really alarming because when I got to the vet, I was kind of telling them how he was floppy, like, but that I didn't think it was, like, a big deal. I just thought maybe he was, like, weak and tired because he hadn't eaten much, or maybe he was just kind of, like, throwing a cat temper tantrum because I moved him and he didn't want to be moved. And as I'm telling the vet tech this, he was, like, sitting on the scale and he looked like he was going to jump off the table. And I kind of was like, Leeroy, do not jump off that table. Don't do it, you know? And on the way to the vet, he had gone to the bathroom in his kennel, so I was, like, cleaning that up. And while I was cleaning it up, he jumped off the table. Not fell, jumped. He made the choice to jump. And he did not extend his front legs. Like, he just, like, fell face first from the vet table onto the floor. He kind of landed, like, on, like, his shoulder, like, the side of his face, kind of. And it was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I know there's probably a lot of people who are, like, laughing at the thought of that, but it's, like, cats are very agile animals. They're, like, known to always land on their feet. He didn't fall. I could understand if, like, he fell, but he made the choice to jump and had no control over his front legs at all and just, like, fell on the ground. And it was, like, I didn't even know how to process it when it happened. Like, I obviously was like, oh my God, like, are you okay? And I was, like, kind of seeing if he was all right. And he seemed okay. Like, he was, like, alert and wasn't, like, yowling in pain, and he wasn't, like, bleeding or anything. So I guess kind of, like, in shock, I, like, went back to what I was doing because it was almost like my brain didn't want to process, like, how serious that was. And, like, the vet tech went into full, like, I don't even know what the mode would be called, but, like, she called another vet tech in and they immediately, like, whisked him away and, like, started performing all these neurological tests on him. And I, like, started to have a full-on panic attack, like, shaking, sobbing, just, like, hysteria, like, uncontrollable things were going on. Like, I just didn't know how to function at all, because I kind of had brought my cat in thinking he was having digestive issues, and all of a sudden he can't use his legs. Like, it was just really, really overwhelming and stressful. And while he was at the vet, they do this like test on animals when they're having neurological problems, where like normally an animal, if this is the bottom of their paw, you know, they'll sit like this on the ground, and if you were to flip their paw over, they would just put it back. He wouldn't put his back. Like, if they flipped his paw over, he would just fall forward, and just that was okay with him. His pupils were 2 different sizes. He couldn't follow a light with his eyes. It was all very scary, because I went in thinking they were going to give my cat like a laxative, and walked out thinking he was going to die, because they had already run blood panels. They'd already run a urinalysis. They had no idea what could be causing these symptoms. So when I left, they had him like in the emergency room, I guess. They ran x-rays on him. The x-rays came back clean. So my vet decided to start treating him as though he had an infection, which was causing like swelling and was affecting his nervous system, which pretty much narrowed it down to a couple things. The first thing it could have been was FIP, which is not a treatable, not a curable virus. And there's no way of really testing for it, because all cats are like FIP positive. It's just that most cats are fine. Like, not all cats, but like 98% of cats would test positive for FIP, but they would never get sick. The other option was toxoplasmosis, which is like when you hear that pregnant women shouldn't like do litter boxes, that's the disease they are worried about, because it can be transferred to people. But the good news is that they started him on a treatment of antibiotics and steroids, and he's responding very positively. I don't know if you saw him walking around back there, but he literally could not walk. He couldn't sit up straight. He couldn't use his front legs at all. Even when he was like laying down, like he didn't have his paws tucked tight like a normal cat did. They were just like, it was the weirdest thing. Like, the vet tech even pointed it out, like, what the hell is going on with his paws? Like, that's weird. He's as of, like, even last night when I took him home, he was sitting up, but he wasn't really moving around very much. He was still very still. But this morning I woke up and he was sitting up on top of his little house, meowing at me, demanding to be let out of the kennel, because I've got him in like a big, I don't know if you can see it, it's over here. It's like a kennel for a Great Dane or something, which I don't have a dog that big, so that's confusing, but whatever. I've got him in there when he's not being supervised. That way he can't like get up on something and jump off and hurt himself. But he was really demanding to be let out, so I let him out, and he was walking really well. I mean, he's still a little wobbly, but not, it's like a 90% improvement. I mean, it's massive how much better he is. And the vet was she felt really good about his progress, and she felt like it wasn't just the anti-inflammatory, that he was clearly also responding to antibiotics, because the anti-inflammatory will wear off. It's not like it lasts forever. And around like 16 hours after his last dose of the anti-inflammatory, he was still up and alert and very bright-eyed and observant of everything, and he was being very vocal, like meowing at everyone, sitting up, getting up in his little cat carrier, turning around. He like wanted to position himself so he could see out the window. So it was just a very night and day. So he's going to be on the anti-inflammatory and the antibiotic for 2 weeks, and then he goes back to the vet to get another assessment to see where he is health-wise, and if she thinks he's doing better, she's going to down the dosage of both of those things and then probably reassess again in 2 weeks. She said he'll probably need to be on antibiotics for a month. Toxoplasmosis is a pretty serious disease, obviously. It can cause like digestive issues. It can also cause like respiratory issues in some cats. And if the infection has like festered long enough, it can actually cause like seizures and neurological issues like Leeroy had. So I guess in a way we're like lucky, because had he not tried to jump off the vet table and not functioned like a normal cat, we wouldn't have known that he was as sick as he was, even though it was like really terrifying. I'm kind of glad he did that because I didn't know he had neurological symptoms before that. And it does seem like he's going to be better. So we're obviously very pleased about that. And yeah, so I just wanted to give you guys a cat update. Leeroy's doing much better. He's feeling much better. And we're going to just keep a really close eye on him. If you're worried about my other cats, I guess at this point, don't be. My vet said most cats and humans have like a natural immunity to toxoplasmosis. And apparently cats are only contagious for a couple days after they first contract the disease, not even when they first start showing symptoms, but when they first contract the disease. And we're estimating that Leeroy has had toxoplasmosis for between 3 weeks and a month. So our theory is that because Ninja does go outside, he's on an invisible fence collar. He can't just like leave the yard and like go off in the road and stuff. But we're guessing that Ninja ate something like a mouse or something that had toxoplasmosis. But because Ninja's been outside his whole life, he has an immunity to it. So when he like pooped and then did cat things, you know, licked his own butthole and then groomed himself, and then Leeroy groomed him, Leeroy ingested some of the spores and caught the parasite, and it actually made him sick. But my vet said it's very likely that if my other cats were going to get sick, they would be sick, and none of them have shown any symptoms. I guess the good thing in all of this is that nobody really grooms Leeroy, and nobody else really grooms Ninja either. Like Ninja and Leeroy are buds, and then like Kieran just is a loner cat. But then like Arthas and Mara are friends, but it's not like they all groom each other. So it's not super likely that anybody else is infected. And Nick and I aren't really, like, the only people who are really at risk are people who have a compromised immune systems or pregnant women. And none of the people in that house qualify as those things. So everybody should be fine, but we'll obviously keep a really close eye on them. And hopefully when we go back in 2 weeks, they'll say that Leeroy's doing way better and we can down his dose and we can go from there. So yeah, thank you for watching this video, I guess. Or you're welcome for giving you the rest of the information. I don't know. We're here. That's all that matters. I'm going to go. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I love you all. You're in my hearts. I'll see you soon. Goodbye. Goodbye.